Hey y'all, we are back with another dense update. Here we go. CrossFit's Fittest on Earth final showdown in Madison has reached the #1 spot for documentaries on the iTunes store. Athletes most featured in this documentary were Jeffrey Adler, Roman Krenov, Justin Medeiros, Patrick Velner, Noah Olson, Olivia Kerstetter, Emma Lawson, Annie Thorisdottir, a little bit of Laura Horvath, and everybody's fan favorite, Danielle Brandon. The one thing I will say is I was a little surprised to not see any interviews or footage of Ariel Lowen, as she was third on the podium that year at the CrossFit Games. And there also wasn't a lot from Laura Horvath. Now, we all know that typically during the games, she kind of keeps to herself. I enjoyed the documentary. I'm actually going to go back and probably watch it again just to catch little things that I might have missed. There is quite a bit in there with Justin Medeiros and his struggles through that CrossFit Games. There's a good bit in there with Emma Lawson. She led the CrossFit Games nearly the entire weekend leading up to that final day. There is a emotional interview with her in the back warm-up area where she knows that she is not going to be going into the next workout with the leader's jersey on. Tia Claire Toomey comes up and talks to her and kind of gives her a pep talk. But I'm going to give you my takeaways from it. Number one, and probably the most obvious, had Roman Krenov not broken his foot in that first workout on the final day at the CrossFit Games, he would have won the CrossFit Games in 2023. As we all remember, Roman broke his foot landing on the sandbag coming over the log on that first event of the day. When he came back to the arena, it was unclear if they were going to let him continue on and compete. There is a behind the scenes of the conversation that took place with Dave Castro, Adrian Bosman, the director of the CrossFit Games. They're all sitting down with Roman and his translator, and he is pleading for them to allow him to take the floor. This was obviously a really tough call for the CrossFit Games to make. I don't think there was a dry eye in the stadium. Even the men were a little teary-eyed when he was on the floor and everyone was cheering for him and he was doing double unders on one foot. I actually posted a reel the other day of an old clip of Dave Castro at the CrossFit Games right after Miranda Oldroyd at the time had injured her ACL when she was on Team NorCal. And one of the trolls in the comment section commented this. I actually remembered that comment, and after watching the documentary, went back and shared it to my story and just replied to him. You should probably just watch the 2023 CrossFit Games documentary. This question is answered for you, and even the queen herself, Katrin Davidsdottir, says, I would have done the exact same thing. I love that they allowed him to fight. Chandler Smith even saying that Roman set a new standard for toughness. Another moment that really stuck out for me was Noah Olson's final interview on the floor. That was his final appearance at the CrossFit Games as an individual. And Noah says this sport has changed his life forever, and he is grateful. The opposite sentiment that we're hearing from athletes now. And then Danielle Brandon having a very emotional moment with her former boyfriend and coach, Matthew Torres of Brute Strength. When she is in the ice bath recovering, Danielle is practically in tears talking to him, telling him that last year everything felt so easy for her, and this year since the beginning she felt like she was fighting for her life. She didn't feel like she was prepared for the test. She didn't think that she had done enough leading up to this, and it sounds like she had expressed this to her coach prior to the CrossFit Games. She says, I'm paraphrasing here, but I wasn't trying to be a bitch. I just felt like you weren't giving me enough to prepare me for this test. The cameraman asks her how she's feeling. She says she feels like shit, feels like her body is working against her. And in interviews past, I do remember her saying something about being on antibiotics and that had her system all messed up.
I actually had to take like two to 3 weeks off before the games last year. I had to get a tooth pulled, and we cannot guarantee that the antibiotics are going to work, and you're probably just going to be in pain for the next month.
But then you see this from the documentary, and that kind of tells a different story. And then Patrick Velner being his charming self, a lot of footage of him and his wife, and before the games, during the games, after the games. I had actually honestly forgotten that he'd even taken second that year at the CrossFit Games. And I guess that just might be due to everything that's been going on since the 2024 games and all of the interviews and all of the things that he has been saying, and now telling a very, very different story of his experience over the last almost nearly a decade of doing this. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me after watching that. We're now all of a sudden seeing a completely different person with a completely different tone, with anger and bitterness. And then you see the games documentary from just a year before, and it's all smiles and Pat just being his normal, charming Pat Velner self. Anyways, it was a really good documentary. I recommend you go purchase it for yourself. You can find it on iTunes. It's $14.99. I've consumed almost every piece of content since the beginning of CrossFit, so there was no way I was not watching this. One of my Instagram followers sent me this link of this video the other day, and it had already popped up on my YouTube feed, and this was a great reminder for me to go back and watch it. But the title of the YouTube video said, Amanda Barnhart, functional fitness athlete. I'm sorry, what? Is that what we're calling them now? I refuse. At the very beginning, when the barn door rolls up.
Hey guys, I'm Amanda Barnhart, 6 times CrossFit Games athlete.
And in the video, she talks about how the rig pull-up bar is good for qualifier workouts and open workouts. CrossFit stuff. But yet she's a functional fitness athlete. I can't even take it seriously. It just sounds so ridiculous. Or is that her way of telling us all that she's retired from the CrossFit Games? Maybe we should ask Andrew Hiller. He might know. 2 competitions going on this weekend, Dubai Fitness Championship and FitFest UK. Dubai Fitness Championship is being live streamed on their YouTube channel. There are 2 workouts remaining. Luka Dukic is leading the elite men's field by about 74 points. So nice little cushion there. Don't think anyone will be able to catch him. And on the female side, it is a tight race. Jamie Simmons is in first place. Following behind her is Karen Frey and then Kristen Holta, who I thought retired, but I guess came out of retirement. And the FitFest UK, Team World versus Team Europe. Last time I checked, they were tied 2-2 going into the final workout for Saturday. You can catch that full live stream on the Be Friendly Fitness channel. Patrick Clark is commentating on the floor there, giving you all the live action. And on this week's episode of Kill Taylor, no one called in. The workout looked pretty rough. Started off with...
it's a 4-time, 9 rope climbs, 15 foot, 15 sandbag loads, 150 for the guys, 150 for the ladies, over a 48-inch box, 21 bar muscle ups, 15 sandbag loads, 9 rope climbs again. Now the kick is the first 3 rope climbs of each set of 9 are legless.
The kick.
Next week's prize money will be up to $1,500, to be on the lookout for that workout on the Real Sevan Podcast Instagram channel. Scott with Clydesdale Media sat down with Tristan Patrick. Really enjoyed this interview.
I think it is better when the athletes are integrated in the community in what the Open was in 2013, 2014, 2015. I remember my first Open in 2015. It was nuts. I just remember pain and a good time, right?
If you wanted a coach's perspective for athletes that were maybe just semifinal level or right outside that cut line of the top 20 in the world, this is one you want to go watch. He explains he's not in favor of this new season format, but that he is going to support his athletes in whatever decision they make moving forward to compete in this upcoming season, whether they do or not. Ideally, that in-person semifinals is more favorable for him and his athletes, but if they have to get on a plane and fly to Africa so Jacob can earn his spot to the games, he said they'll do it. Scott and him talk about all the issues surrounding the CrossFit Games. They talk a little bit about Dave Castro. Tristan gives his thoughts on that.
I was a volunteer. I've seen that man work behind the scenes.
I like that they didn't fire Dave.
Okay. That's a strong statement these days.
I don't think that it's fair to say that he doesn't care about the athletes. And I think there's a lot of data to back that up.
He may be one of the only coaches in the space that I've heard say this. You can find that full interview on the Clydesdale Media YouTube channel. Tomorrow, Glitton Things take over the Real Live Sevan Podcast YouTube channel. Go over there and check them out tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central. Good episode of Shut Up and Scribble with J.R. Howell and Taylor Self. They get into a little bit of the back and forth that happened with Taylor and Coach L. JR, always the calm, cool, collected voice of reason. And then Taylor, just being Taylor. But he stands his ground. He stands by what he says. I don't know how anybody can not respect the guy. He keeps it real as shit, and I appreciate that. We need a lot less of the fake and a little more of the real. That is all for this dense update. Be sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, if you're into that sort of thing, you can head over to my Instagram. Follow me there for all the latest happenings in the CrossFit community.